honorable guest has arrived. I request all to please welcome him with a round of applause. I also request other dignitaries on the dais to please come and join Honorable Minister to light the lamp. I request Honorable Minister to please light the lamp. Dr. Pramod Chaudhary, Ramakrishna ji, Anna Saab, Dr. Vidya Murukumbi, Ashwini ji, Ashish Kumar ji, to please come and join Honorable Minister for lighting the lamp. Honorable MOS Rameshwar ji. वो कहाँ गए? अच्छा, please come. Yeah, Honorable MOS Rameshwar ji has also come. I request him to please join the Honorable Minister Gadkari to light the lamp. Yes, sir. And a round of applause to the Honorable Ministers. May I now request Subodh Kumar ji to please come forward and present a bouquet to the Honorable Minister Subodh ji. Subodh ji is the chairperson of our Biomass Global Associates Forum, and he has been formerly working with Indian Oil. He was the ED in Indian Oil who drafted the Satat scheme for CBG. Request Subodh ji to please present a bouquet to Nitin Gadkari ji. May I now request Colonel Rohit Dev ji to please come forward. Colonel Rohit Dev ji to please come forward and present a bouquet to Honorable MOS Shri Rameshwar Teli ji. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we actually, this function is for two, important activities. One, we have been organizing India Green Energy Awards. This is the 4th edition, and this function is basically to felicitate the awardees. And then second, we are organizing a major exhibition and conference on bioenergy in the month of September from 2nd to 4th in New Delhi. This was under the guidance and direction of Honorable Gadkari ji. So this event will be held in September, but the curtain raiser function we thought we should have now so that we can start preparing well in advance for that event. So this is combination of two functions, and we are honored, we are delighted that we have Honorable Gadkari ji here to facilitate both these, and Honorable Rameshwar ji also joining him. So I will now request Shri Pramod Chaudhary ji, our President of IFG, a great visionary for bioeconomy and Chairman Emeritus Praj Industries, to please deliver the welcome address and also describe the purpose of this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sanjay ji. What a lovely evening here on the lawns of 2 Motilal Nehru Marg. It's my great honor and privilege to welcome Shri Nitinji Gadkari as a chief guest for today's evening program. Most befitting kind of a guest he is here, and also Honorable Sam Rameshwar Teliji for accompanying for this program. Friends, this program is happening, I think this is the fifth or sixth of that kind under IFG banner, and we have been felicitating awards for renewable energy, mostly with the which are of based on natural resources or natural movers. Yeah. So that covers variety of things. That covers currently even windmills and all those things. But our major focus has been for green energy. Now, green is coming from the nature, is obviously implied. And today we are having a lot of activities in this space, of which credit goes to Honorable Minister Sri Nitinji, who has given a big push to this activity, and he continues to give that for the introduction of variety of green fuels. Biofuels, bioenergy, bioeconomy happens to be one part of that. But what is getting covered here is even beyond that. In India, it has come of age, these various technologies and various programs, and I am happy that many of the stakeholders are getting awarded or getting felicitated because of their achievement in this space. We have to congratulate all those awardees for receiving these awards, and more of them will come forward in time to come. So I request Sanjay ji, so I request Sanjay ji to start the delivering or distribution of the awards, and followed by Honorable Minister's address to give us the guidance and more inspiration. Thank you once again for coming here, and I welcome you.
Thank you for your welcome address and the leadership you have been providing to us, along with your entire team of Raj. Whenever we have anything, we immediately bank upon you. Thank you, sir. So we'll start the felicitation. May I request my colleagues to please start the presentation? Yeah. Well, I'll just give you a brief about the Green Energy Awards. This is the 4th edition of Green Energy Awards, and IFG has been very particular about the quality and the norms that we follow. We have been following a rigorous practice of inviting nominations from the industry, which are duly evaluated by our knowledge partner Care Regis, Care Ratings, and after a due evaluation of the results, then it is put across to the jury. Next slide. So, and the award is supported by all important ministries like the new MNRE, Road MOR, TH, Ministry of Environment. So they are all supporting the award. The next one. And the partners to this award are all important institutions like IREDA, they are sponsoring it, TERI, CareEdge, ECMA, SESI, Cold Storage, and Renewable Mirror as the media partner. Next. The jury members who do a lot of work on this include YB Ramakrishna ji, Ashwini Kumar ji. Dr. Ashwini Kumar ji was formerly MD in SESI, Solar Energy Corporation of India. Mr. Smod Kumar ji, who came in the at the beginning. Professor Virender Vijay from IIT Delhi. Mr. Ranveer Singh, he was previously with Niti Aayog, now working with 4C. And Praful Pathak ji, he is in fact, the founding member of the IHG. So now straight to the selection process I already mentioned next. So we follow a very transparent and thorough process so that there is no there are no fingers pointed to us later for the selection process. Next. So the first, I will start announcing the awardees and request them to please come forward and receive the awards from the Honorable Minister. So the first category is Outstanding Green Energy Consumer, and the winner is Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. Request Mr. Pramit Garg and S.A. Verma to please receive the award from Honorable Minister. The next one is Outstanding Green Energy Consumer, runner-up, TVS Motors Company Limited. Please come forward. Mr. Prasad and D. Rajesh. Then we have Outstanding Discom Supporting Energy, Supporting Green Energy, and the winner is Northern Power Distribution Company of Telangana Limited. Request Mr. Sardar Lal, Director, to please come forward. So I'll keep on announcing the subsequent so that timings we are able to say some timings. Then the Outstanding Discom Supporting Green Energy, the runner-up category is, please come, Tata Power Limited Distribution, Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited. Please, Ms. Kiran Gupta and Mr. H.C. Sharma, you are requested to please come and receive the awards. Then we have Outstanding Green Energy Initiatives in Transport Sector, and the winner is Nava Sheva Gateway Terminal Private Limited. Mr. Srihari Santhanam. Nava Sheva Gateway Terminal Private Limited, Mr. Srihari. And the next one is Outstanding Solar Project in the category of 5 to 25 megawatts, Indian Oil Corporation Limited. Mr. Shantanu Gupta, please receive the award on behalf of Indian Oil. The next one is Outstanding Solar Project 25 to 250 megawatts, Renew Solar Energy Karnataka Private Limited. Renew, Mr. Bharat Behel and Mr. Ganesh Kamble. Then we have Outstanding Solar Project 25 to 250 megawatts, runner-up Nirosha Power Private Limited. So then Outstanding Solar Project 250, about 250 megawatts, Tata Power Solar. Yeah, Tata Power Solar. Yeah. Tata Power Solar. And the next one is Outstanding Renewable Energy Producer Hydro Project. Again, the Tata Power Company Limited. So please come close to the dais. Tata Power Company Limited. They come. Yeah. So please. Outstanding Renewable Energy Producer Hydro, runner-up Shiga Energy Private Limited. Then Outstanding Renewable Energy Producer Wind, winner is Renew Wind Energy Limited. Renew wind energy. So the next one is bioenergy outstanding chemical process based project ethanol. Winner is Godavari. Sorry, I think I missed out. Outstanding renewable energy producer wind, wind power, Ratlam as runner up. Clean wind. And the next one is bioenergy outstanding chemical process based plant ethanol, Godavari Biorefineries Limited, Mr. Samir Somaiya. Then we have outstanding chemical process based bioenergy plant ethanol runner up Swaraj Green Power and Fuel Limited, Mr. Vinay Thakur. Swaraj Green. Then we have bioenergy outstanding chemical process based plant biogas farm gas private limited as the winner. Farm gas. We again have Indian Oil for leadership in battery charging, swapping and infrastructure. From Indian Oil, Shantanu again, request you to please come. Once again, congratulations to Indian Oil. Then we have excellence in e-mobility services provider. Winner is Prakriti E-Mobility Private Limited. Prakriti E-Mobility Private Limited. Excellence in two-wheelers, oblique three-wheelers. The winner is TVS Motor Company Limited. Prasad, please come. And we have again TVS. Unique Green Energy Initiative, oblique Project and Technology, Lars Enviro Private Limited. Biofuel Circle Private Limited in the same category. Lars Enviro, I request you to please. Then we have Biofuel Circle Private Limited. Then the category of outstanding community-based green energy project, and the winner is SAF Biogas Private Limited, Mr. Arshad Kulkarni. And in the same category, we also have Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority. Please come. Yeah, this is Sumit Sarkar from Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority. We have Outstanding Green Campaigner Organization Award, which goes to Grassroots Research and Creation Private Limited and Energy Swaraj Foundation. You please request, you are requested to please come. And Dheeraj ji, please see Grassroots Research. Please. Energy Swaraj Foundation, Professor Chetan Singh Solanki. And then we have one more outstanding financial institution for green financing, Tata Clean Tech Capital Limited. So congratulations all winners. Last but not the least, we have two felicitations for two companies who are doing some exceptional work in green energy. We thought we should recognize them. One is India Potash Limited. Request them to please come forward. And also Merino Industries, is largest laminate company in the country, but almost 70% renewable using for their production. Request mementos to please be brought for India Potash. And to Merino Industries Limited. Sir, you must visit their plant. They have hardcore. You'll be really happy to see the kind of work they do. The owner of the plant is an IITian and very passionate about green energy. गुजरात में largest furniture plant लगा रहे हैं IKEA के. Thank you, sir. So I think completed the felicitation. Request guests to please be seated for the next announcement. And so I will request all jury members to please come on the dais and receive an appreciation from the Honorable Minister. I will announce the names: Ashwini Kumar ji, Ramakrishna ji, Subodh ji, Praful Pathak ji, Atul Mule ji, Ranveer Singh ji, Professor Virendra Vijay. अभी सही है यार फॉरवर्ड सही है Yeah, Ranveer Singh ji hai. He's there. I think he has Atul Mole. And we have one more motto for KRL is also for their kind strong support for KRL momentum. Mr. Sabyasachi Mumbai. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, as you are aware, that we have, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we have two functions. One we have already, almost completed. The second one is the curtain raiser of the event that we are organizing in the month of September, 2nd to 4th. So we have a small presentation on that event. I would request my colleagues to please uh, switch on the presentation. Please run the presentation. Then we have the presentation on curtain raiser. Yeah, thank you. I will request my colleagues to please come with the brochures of the event and present them to the Honorable Minister for unveiling. I also request all participants to please go through those brochures and get the details. We didn't want to take your time while making the presentation on the details of it. So everything is mentioned in the brochure, and we are also willing to, answer your queries, if any. Please come with the. So, curtain raiser function of the event and the brochures are being unveiled by Honorable Minister. Request all to please give a round of applause. I also request Honorable Minister to leave the ready hand. To unveil the website also. You can. website of the event is ready and can be, we can visit the website for more details. So we are doing it a bit fast because Honorable Minister has to go for a cabinet meeting. One small function, we have recently entered into an MOU with the Carbon Markets Association of India. I request Mr. Manish Devkara to please come forward with the copies of MOU so that we can exchange them in front of the Honorable Minister. Yeah, please. 1 second. Thank you. Now I request Honorable MOS Rameshwar ji to please share his wisdom, share his kind words with us and bless this event.
नमस्कार। आज की इस प्रोग्राम में मंच पर उपस्थित हमारे भारत सरकार के कैबिनेट मंत्री नितिन गडकरी जी, हमारे इस मंच पर उपस्थित राज्य इंडस्ट्री के चेयरमैन प्रमोद चौधरी जी, हमारे IFGE के DG संजय गंजू जी, सीनियर डायरेक्टर सभ्य शशि मजुमदार जी, चेयरपर्सन IFGE के BK रामाकृष्णन जी, फॉर्मर MD SCCI के अश्विनी कुमार जी, वाइस चेयरमैन IFGE के आशीष कुमार जी, फॉर्मर एमोस डेवलपमेंट के भारत सरकार के अन्ना साहेब जी, हमारे यहाँ उपस्थित रवि बोधरकर जी और यहाँ उपस्थित सभी भाई और बहनें, इंडिया फेडरेशन ऑफ ग्रीन एनर्जी द्वारा आयोजित किए जा रहे चौथे इंडियन ग्रीन एनर्जी पुरस्कार समारोह में आप सभी के बीच आकर मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है। हमारे देश में जैव ईंधनों और साफ और नवीन ऊर्जा को बढ़ावा देने के लिए जो अटूट संकल्प IFGE ने दर्शाया है वो निश्चय बहुत सराहनीय है। भारत सरकार माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में एक लंबे अरसे से देश में जैव ईंधनों और नवीन ऊर्जा के इस्तेमाल को बढ़ावा देने के लिए अनेक महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठा रही है। सरकार ने जून 2018 में राष्ट्रीय जैव ईंधन नीति को लागू किया था, जिसके अंतर्गत वर्ष 2025 और 26 तक पेट्रोल में 20%, इथेनॉल तथा 2030 तक डीजल में 5% बायोडीजल के मिश्रण का लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया गया है। वर्ष 2022-23 तक पेट्रोल में 12% इथेनॉल के मिश्रण के स्तर को हासिल कर लिया गया है। टिकाऊ विमानन ईंधन यानी SAF के इस्तेमाल पर भी हमारी सरकार जोर दे रही है। देश में पहली बार इंडियन ऑयल और प्राज इंडस्ट्री के सौजन्य से मई 2023 में एयर एशिया के यात्रियों विमान ने SAF मिश्रित ईंधन के इस्तेमाल से पुणे से दिल्ली तक उड़ान भरी थी। इतना ही नहीं, SAF के इस्तेमाल को गति देने के लिए 2027 में 1% SAF मिश्रण का सूचक लक्ष्य रखा गया है। इथानॉल के उत्पादन को बढ़ावा देने के उद्देश्य से PM जीवन योजना शुरू की गई है। इसके तहत 2G बायो रिफाइनरी लगाने के लिए आर्थिक सहायता दी जाती है और अब तक लगभग 185 करोड़ रुपए की राशि प्रदान की जा चुकी है। पीयूष ने इथानॉल को कमी वाले राज्यों में इथानॉल संयंत्र स्थापित करने के लिए EOI जारी किए हैं। इन प्रस्तावों को जोरदार प्रतिक्रिया मिली है और हमारी कंपनियों ने 131 सफल आवेदकों के साथ दीर्घकालीन करार सिग्नेचर किए हैं। सरकार ने पेट्रोलियम और प्राकृतिक गैस मंत्रालय के तत्वाधान में अक्टूबर 2018 में किफायती परिवहन के लिए दीर्घकालीन विकल्प यानी सतत योजना की शुरुआत की है। इस योजना का लक्ष्य पूरे भारत में 5000 CBG प्लांट लगाना है, जिससे 15 MMTP के कॉम्प्रेस्ड बायोगैस और 50 MMTP के जैविक खाद का उत्पादन और विपणन कराना है। गैस विपणन के लिए नए रास्ते खोलने के लिए सिटी गैस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन CGD के साथ CBG को भी शामिल करने के लिए दिशा निर्देश दिए गए हैं। इन प्रयासों के परिणाम स्वरूप देश भर में 55 CBG प्लांट चालू किए गए हैं और 60 प्लांट पर भी अभी कार्य प्रगति पर है। देश भर में करीब 155 खुदरा बिक्री केंद्र के माध्यम से CBG की आपूर्ति की जा रही है। हमारी सरकार सोलर ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में भी महत्वपूर्ण कार्य कर रहा है। इसी कड़ी में हमारी तेल और गैस कंपनियों ने लगभग 3000 मेगावाट सोलर ऊर्जा क्षमता विकसित कर रही है। इस वर्ष तक हमारी तेल कंपनियों की उनके सारे खुदरा बिक्री केंद्रों को सोलर ऊर्जा से संचालित करने का लक्ष्य दिया गया है। इस दिशा में अब तक इंडियन ऑयल, BCPL और HPCL के करीब अपनी 80,000 खुदरा बिक्री केंद्र में से लगभग 50% की पूर्ति रूप से सोलर ऊर्जा द्वारा संचालित कर रहा है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में केंद्रीय मंत्रिमंडल ने लगभग 20,000 करोड़ रुपए के कुल लागत के साथ राष्ट्रीय ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन को जनवरी 2023 को अनुमति किया था। ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के क्षेत्र में हमारे सार्वजनिक क्षेत्र के तेल और गैस PSU द्वारा कई पहलों की गई है। तेल और गैस PSU ने वर्ष 2030 तक करीब 8,000 किलो टन प्रति वर्ष ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के उत्पादन का लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया है। CGD नेटवर्क में भी हाइड्रोजन मिश्रण पर तेजी से काम चल रहा है। इंडियन ऑयल ने भारत में हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल सेल के विकास के लिए टाटा मोटर्स के साथ एक समझौता ज्ञापन पर हस्ताक्षर किए हैं। इंडियन ऑयल के R&D सेंटर द्वारा इस वर्ष में 15 फ्यूल सेल बसें चलाई जाएगी। इसी कड़ी में पहली ऐसी बस सितंबर 2023 में कर्तव्य पथ से संचालित की गई थी। हमारे तेल और गैस PSU ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के उत्पादन के लिए बड़ी क्षमता के इलेक्ट्रोलाइजर भी उपयोग में लाने वाले हैं। इसी दिशा में एक महत्वपूर्ण कार्य के रूप में बीसीपीएल ने भाभा ऑटोमिक रिसर्च सेंटर के साथ मिलकर 70% स्वदेशी इलेक्ट्रोलाइजर विकसित किया है। इसी को हाल ही में समाप्त हुए भव्य इंडियन एनर्जी वीक गोवा में प्रदर्शित किया गया था। मुझे ये जानकर बहुत प्रसन्नता हो रही है कि IFGE ने दिनांक 2 से 4 सितंबर 2023 के दौरान यशोभूमि नई दिल्ली में इंडियन बायो एनर्जी एंड टेक एक्सपो नामक एक बड़े कार्यक्रम की योजना बनाई है। आज इस कार्यक्रम के आयोजन के लिए IFGE को हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं और मैं आज के सभी पुरस्कार विजेताओं को भी दिल से बधाई देता हूं। आइए हम मिलकर साफ और नवीन ऊर्जा को अपनाकर अपने देश के बेहतर भविष्य के लिए मिलकर काम करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
आदरणीय मंत्री जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आप सीधे एयरपोर्ट से यहाँ आगे, आप कहीं बाहर थे, तमिलनाडु गए थे, उसके बावजूद भी व्यस्तताओं के कारण उसके बाद भी आप यहाँ आए। हम आपका आभार प्रकट करते हैं। समय कम है, मैं आदरणीय नितिन गडकरी जी से निवेदन करता हूँ कि वो अपना मुख्य वक्तव्य रखें। उनका परिचय मुझे लगता है करने की जरूरत नहीं है, सब उनको प्यार भी करते हैं, आदर भी करते हैं।
मंत्रिमंडल में मेरे सहयोगी आदरणीय रामेश्वर तेली जी, हमारे IFGE के अध्यक्ष आदरणीय प्रमोद चौधरी जी, यहाँ उपस्थित YB रामकृष्णन जी, चेयरपर्सन IFGE CBG फोरम, आदरणीय अन्ना शेख पाटिल, डॉक्टर विद्या मुरकुम्बी जी, अश्विनी कुमार जी, मुड़े जी, उपस्थित सभी मान्यवर और भाई और बहनों, सबसे पहले ग्रीन एनर्जी के क्षेत्र में जिन्होंने अच्छा कार्य किया है और जिनका आज हम सब ने गौरव किया है, उन सबको मैं उनका बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन करता हूं, उनको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूं। कार्बन न्यूट्रल हमारा देश 2070 में बने, ऐसा एक टारगेट हमने सामने रखा है और इसलिए अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल और बायो फ्यूल के क्षेत्र में काफी बड़ा रिवोल्यूशन हुआ है। G20 के समय हमारे यहाँ G20 देशों के बीच में विशेष रूप से बायोफ्यूल पर एक बायोफ्यूल की अलायंस भी हुई है G20 देशों में। आने वाले समय में हमारे देश में तो ग्रीन फ्यूल तैयार होगी ही, और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज यही है कि पूरे विश्व में इसके मशीनरी, इक्विपमेंट, इन सब को एक्सपोर्ट करके एक बहुत बड़ा बिजनेस की अपॉर्चुनिटी हमारे बिजनेस में जो काम कर रहे हैं उनको मिल सकती है। हमने जहाँ तक इथेनॉल का प्रयोग यशस्वी रूप से किया है और अभी नुमालीगढ़ में बाम्बू से भी इथेनॉल बनाया गया है और बांग्लादेश में जो पाइपलाइन जाती है डीजल और पेट्रोल के लिए, उसमें मैंने उनको सुझाव दिया है कि जो पेट्रोल जाता है उसमें 20% इथेनॉल डालकर अगर आप भेजेंगे तो इस बहाने इथेनॉल का एक्सपोर्ट भी हो जाएगा, बांग्लादेश की कीमत भी कम हो जाएगी, वहाँ के ग्राहकों को भी फायदा होगा, प्रदूषण भी कम होगा और सबसे बड़ी बात कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट में, आसाम में सब जगह पर बाम्बू काटना, उसको ट्रांसपोर्ट करना, इसका एक नया अपॉर्चुनिटी वहाँ के युवाओं को मिलेगी। मुझे ये भी बात की खुशी है कि पराली जैसा जलाने से कितना नुकसान होता है। अब बड़े प्रमाण पर यहाँ हमारे रामकृष्णन जी आए हैं और आज बड़े प्रमाण पर प्रोजेक्ट्स पराली से बायोगैस, बायो CNG, बायो LNG बना रहे हैं। जो पानीपत का प्रोजेक्ट इंडियन ऑयल का है बहुत ही अच्छा है। 1 लाख लीटर इथेनॉल 76,000 टन बायो एविएशन फ्यूल, जिसको सस्टेनेबल एविएशन फ्यूल कहा जाता है, और 150 टन बायोबिटुमिन। एक प्रकार से एक महत्वपूर्ण बात इसमें है जिसमें आप सब लोगों ने विचार करना चाहिए। प्रूवन टेक्नोलॉजी, इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी, अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल एंड मार्केटेबिलिटी ऑफ द फिनिश प्रोडक्ट। जहां तक मार्केटेबिलिटी है उसमें प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, क्योंकि हम 16 लाख करोड़ का हम इंपोर्ट करते हैं फॉसिल फ्यूल का। प्रॉब्लम यही है कि हमारे यहाँ जो बायोफ्यूल हम बनाएंगे उसकी कॉस्ट और हम जो इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं उसकी कॉस्ट, इसमें जब वो कॉस्ट कम होगी तो हमें ज़्यादा अच्छा मार्केट मिलेगा। और ये करने के लिए कुछ जगह पर हमें जैसे बायो सीएनजी और बायो एलएनजी और बायोगैस बनाने में इस बार भारत सरकार के हमारे वित्त मंत्री जी ने जो बायोमास का कलेक्शन है, बेल बनाना, ट्रांसपोर्ट करना, उसमें नए नए इक्विपमेंट डेवलप कर रहे हैं और वो ट्रांसपोर्ट करने में सब्सिडी दी है। इंडियन ऑयल जो राइस स्ट्रॉ तरली खरीदती है उसको हरियाणा की सरकार 1,000 रुपये टन उनको सब्सिडी देती है। तो स्वाभाविक रूप से आने वाले समय में हमें ये भी देखना होगा कि एक तरफ हमारा रिसर्च, ये जो इथेनॉल के इसमें मेथेनॉल के बीच में बायो सीएनजी, बायो एलएनजी, ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन, अब इलेक्ट्रिक तो पॉपुलर हो गया क्योंकि मैं ट्रांसपोर्ट का मंत्री हूँ, ये सब बातों में प्रयोग तो हो रहे हैं। और एक ही बात है कि इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी जितनी आएगी उतना इसमें फायदा होगा। मैं अभी चौधरी साहब को यही कह रहा था कि दिस इज द अप्रोप्रिएट टाइम, वी नीड टू हैव ए कोऑपरेशन, कोऑर्डिनेशन एंड कम्युनिकेशन between agriculture research organization and biofuel manufacturers। क्योंकि अगर हम जो एनर्जी क्रॉप्स है उसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी और उससे जो एनर्जी तैयार होने वाली वो नहीं बढ़ा पाएंगे तो स्वाभाविक रूप से इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी नहीं आएगी। अभी मैं राजस्थान में था तो मुख्यमंत्री और दोनों उप मुख्यमंत्री और चीफ सेक्रेटरी साहब के साथ मीटिंग हुई और डेवलपमेंट की चर्चा हो रही थी। तब मैंने कहा कि जो शुगर बीट है राजस्थान में गंगानगर में, उसको आप फिर से चालू करिए और अब शुगर बीट से शुगर बनाने के बजाय शुगर बीट से केवल इथेनॉल बनाने की अनुमति दीजिए। मैं प्रमोद चौधरी जी को धन्यवाद दूंगा, इस क्षेत्र में उन्होंने काफी अच्छा रिसर्च किया है और अभी विशेष रूप से बायो एविएशन फ्यूल, सस्टेनेबल एविएशन फ्यूल में उन्होंने यशस्वी रूप से एक विस्तारा का एयर एशिया का एक हवाई जहाज 1% को डालकर उन्हें यशस्वी प्रयोग किया। इसके पहले स्पाइस जेट में भी हुआ है और 26 जनवरी के कार्यक्रम में हमारे हेलीकॉप्टर्स और फाइटर जेट भी उसमें चले हैं। नागपुर में राफेल बनता है और ये जो डोसाल्ट करके कंपनी है उनके सीईओ मुझे मिलने के लिए आए थे और मैंने उनको विशेष रूप से अनुरोध किया कि अब हिंदुस्तान में इथेनॉल मिल रहा है। अभी मेरे रिक्वेस्ट पर पेट्रोलियम मंत्री जी ने कहा और वैके साहब ने घोषणा की है कि वो देश में 400 इथेनॉल के पंप इंडियन ऑयल के द्वारा खोलेंगे। और अभी हमारे पास फ्लेक्स इंजन की गाड़ियां, जो स्कूटर्स है, मोटरसाइकिल है, अपने टीवीएस की, बजाज की, हीरो की तैयार है। अब ऑटो रिक्शा भी तैयार है और मेरे यहाँ ही वर्ल्ड की पहली इनोवा है फ्लेक्स इंजन पर, जो 100% बायो इथेनॉल पे चलती है, 60% बिजली तैयार करती है। इथेनॉल और पेट्रोल दोनों यूज कर सकते हैं और उसके अगर एवरेज हिसाब से पेट्रोल की तुलना में करेंगे तो पेट्रोल का भाव 25 रुपीज पर लीटर आएगा और पोल्यूशन नहीं के बराबर। तो आने वाले समय में फ्लेक्स इंजन पॉपुलर करने में ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री का भी सहयोग चाहिए। लोग मुझे पूछते हैं कि आप फ्लेक्स इंजन की बात करते हो, इलेक्ट्रिक की बात करते हो, ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन की करते हो, इतना फिर ये मिथेनॉल की भी करते हो, इलेक्ट्रिक, ये सब एक समय आ जाएगा तो क्या होगा? तो मैंने उनको एक जवाब दिया कि तुम सब लोग मिलकर 10 साल कितनी भी मेहनत करोगे तो भी तुम 20-25% के ऊपर जाना भी कठिन है, इतना पोटेंशियल है। क्योंकि अभी 16 लाख करोड़ का जो इम्पोर्ट है वो आने वाले 3 साल में, क्योंकि ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री में 22% ग्रोथ है। कंस्ट्रक्शन इक्विपमेंट में ग्रोथ इतनी बड़ी है कि अभी मैं बंगलोर आया था तो मैंने उनको भी कहा कि अब तुम इलेक्ट्रिक पर, मेथनॉल पर इंजन डालिए। मेरे कहने पर जेसीबी ने अपना जेसीबी हाइब्रिड बनाया जो डीजल और इसके सीएनजी पर था। उनको रशिया में 1000 जेसीबी का ऑर्डर मिला। और आज अभी कंस्ट्रक्शन इक्विपमेंट वालों को भी मैंने कहा कि आप अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल और बायोफ्यूल पे जाइए। तो बड़े प्रमाण को उस एग्जीबिशन में मशीनरी आई थी। जनरेटर सेट के बारे में हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, अभी तक उसकी सक्सेस स्टोरी नहीं बनी। मैं ये मानता हूँ कि सरकार खरीदी करे, ये बात जरूर है, पर सरकार खरीदने के बजाय अपना इथेनॉल मार्केट में ही बेचना और कैश में पेमेंट मिलना और 2 रुपए रेट ज्यादा मिलना, ये उससे अच्छी बात होगी। ये पहले दिन से मेरा आर्गुमेंट है, क्योंकि सरकार में पॉलिसी समय समय पर बदलती रहती है, तो हम सेल्फ डिपेंडेंट बने। तो मुझे लगता है कि धीरे धीरे ये मार्केट डेवलप हो रहा है। 400 पंप खुले और अभी इथेनॉल से अगर हमारा बायो एविएशन फ्यूल होता है तो वो भविष्य है। मुझे अभी पुरी साहब बता रहे थे कि वो जब डाउस में थे तो बड़ी चर्चा ये हो रही थी कि अब ये जो एविएशन फ्यूल है इसको हम 5% तक मैंडेटरी करें, और ये अगर मैंडेटरी होगा तो आप समझ लीजिए कि वर्ल्ड में ये बायो एविएशन फ्यूल एक्सपोर्ट करने की अपॉर्चुनिटी इंडिया के पास है। इंडिया और ब्राजील यहाँ मैक्सिमम ये हो सकेगा। तो मेरा आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि वर्ल्ड की केवल डोमेस्टिक मार्केट नहीं, और वर्ल्ड के मार्केट में बायोफ्यूल और अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल का मार्केट खुलने वाला है। और इसमें हमारे जहाँ तक व्हीकल से लेकर इसकी इक्विपमेंट बनाने वाली, मशीनरी बनाने वाले लोगों तक सबको इसका बहुत बड़ा फायदा होने वाला है। और इसका कारण फॉसिल फ्यूल के तुलना में जो इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी इसमें है, इसके कारण इसकी ग्रोथ बहुत फास्ट होने वाली है। तो आने वाले समय में इसके जो बाय प्रोडक्ट है उसको भी वैल्यू एडिशन करके हम कैसे इसको और अच्छा बनाए, ये इकोनॉमी के लिए वायबल बनाए, ये हमारे पास चैलेंज है। बीच में मैं इंडियन ऑयल लेबोरेटरी में गया था तो राम कुमार जी ने मुझे बताया था कि उन्होंने कल्चर तैयार किया है, और कल्चर में जो विशेष रूप से बायो फर्टिलाइजर है उसमें ये कल्चर ऐड करने से उसकी 3 गुना एनपीके वैल्यू बढ़ती है। अब ऑर्गेनिक कार्बन ये हमारे एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन के लिए ऑक्सीजन जैसा है, और स्वाभाविक रूप से ये जो बायोचार है ये भी अब आईआईटी ने इसमें काफी रिसर्च किया है। तो एग्रीकल्चर में हमारे रेजेंट जो क्रॉप्स है उनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाना, और एग्रीकल्चर रिसर्च ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने रिसर्च करके प्रोडक्टिविटी और उससे जो हमको इथेनॉल बनाना है या गैस बनाना है तो कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग करके, उसके जीन्स बायोटेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग करके उसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी और पर टन ईल्ड जब बढ़ेगा तो इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी बहुत ज्यादा आएगी। विदाउट इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी गाड़ी नहीं चल पाएगी, और इसलिए ये कॉम्पिटिशन में रहना ही है। और फॉसिल फ्यूल की तुलना में अगर हमारे रेट सही होंगे तो हमको इंडिया में नहीं वर्ल्ड का मार्केट मिलने वाला है। मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि अभी 15% डीजल में मिथेनॉल डालने का निर्णय भारत सरकार ने किया। अशोक लेलैंड के ट्रक 100% मिथेनॉल पर लॉन्च करने का मुझे बेंगलोर में मौका मिला। अब इतना ही नहीं तो बंगलोर स्टेट कारपोरेशन की 15 बसेस उस समय 15% मिथेनॉल डालकर पायलट प्रोजेक्ट सक्सेसफुली इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ। हमारे को जितने जितने अल्टरनेटिव है जो प्रूवन है और जिसके कारण हमारा इंपोर्ट बच सकता है, उसमें सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है कि हमारे देश की इकोलॉजी और एनवायरनमेंट को हमको प्रोटेक्ट करना है। अभी मैंने 4 रोड में म्यूनिसिपल वेस्ट को सेग्रीगेट करके करीब 70 लाख टन से ज्यादा कचरा यूज किया है। दिल्ली के UR2 में, फिर दिल्ली के रिंग रोड में, और फिर हमने ये हमारा जो पेरिफेरल रोड है उसको यूज किया, अभी अहमदाबाद डोलेरो रोड में किया, और सब जगह पर मैंने कहा कि आप कचरा निकाल के आप उसको यूज करो। वेस्ट टू वेल्थ अब टायर में उसकी पाउडर निकाल कर हम लोग बिटुमेन में ऐड करने की अनुमति दे रहे हैं। मैंने एनवायरमेंट मिनिस्टर को रिक्वेस्ट करके वेस्ट टायर को इंपोर्ट करने की अनुमति दी। ये जो सर्कुलेशन इकोनॉमी है, इसमें बड़े प्रमाण पर रोजगार निर्माण हो सकते हैं। अब प्लास्टिक से क्रूड पेट्रोल तैयार होता है, ये भी लोग कर रहे हैं। तो आने वाले समय में हमारे स्टार्टअप, हमारे रिसर्च करने वाले हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट और हमारे यंग टैलेंटेड इंजीनियर्स लगातार रिसर्च कर रहे हैं। और रिसर्च करते समय जो 4 बातें मैंने कही कि इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। विदाउट इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी उसको कोई मीनिंग नहीं है। अभी जैसे सोलर एनर्जी में 3 रुपए से कम कॉस्ट है, तो नेचुरली सोलर पावर वायबल होती गई। तो कहीं ना कहीं हम सबको इसका विचार करना होगा। आज पानी की भी दिक्कत बहुत है। कल मेरे तेलंगाना के चीफ मिनिस्टर आए थे और वो मुझे बता रहे थे कि कोयना में आप जो पानी समुद्र में छोड़ते हो मुझे दे दो, और जितनी पावर आप तैयार करते हो उतनी पावर हम महाराष्ट्र को देता हूँ, पर मुझे पानी चाहिए। तो वो आज पानी होगा तो एनर्जी क्रॉप्स होंगे, एनर्जी क्रॉप्स की ईल्ड और उसमें एनर्जी का परसेंटेज ज्यादा मिलेगा तो इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी आएगी। और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है कैपिटल कॉस्ट फॉर द प्रोजेक्ट। अभी बाम्बू से इथेनॉल बना, उसके कैपिटल कॉस्ट बहुत ज्यादा है। सरकारी कंपनी लगाया तो हो गया। We need to find out the option that how we can reduce the capital cost. कैपिटल कॉस्ट धीरे धीरे कम होती जाएगी तो वायबिलिटी बढ़ेगी। सरकार का सपोर्ट भी है, देश का नहीं वर्ल्ड का मार्केट भी हमारे पास है। आप चिंता मत करिए। मैं बहुत बार लोगों को बताता हूँ कि इंडिया में इनहेरेंट एक एक्सपर्टाइज है, और वो एक्सपर्टाइज है पॉपुलेशन को कैसे बढ़ाना और ऑटोमोबाइल का नंबर कैसे बढ़ाना। मेरे डिपार्टमेंट में आंकड़ा बढ़ते जा रहा है। अभी इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल का इतना है कि 300% राइज हुआ। तो बड़े प्रमाण में स्क्रैपिंग पॉलिसी हमने लाई है ताकि 15 साल के पुराने व्हीकल को स्क्रैप करो तो डिमांड बढ़ेगी। तो नेचुरली आप इसमें डिमांड की कोई कमी नहीं है, पर हमको फॉसिल फ्यूल के साथ हर समय प्राइस में कॉम्पीट करना होगा। और नेचुरली अब कुछ लोग कहेंगे कि हमारे कारण प्रदूषण कम हो रहा है। देखिए, थियोरेटिकल बातें कितनी भी अच्छी होती है और वो सही भी है, तो भी इकोनॉमिक जो उसकी पैरिटी होती है उसके सिवा दुनिया नहीं झुकती। आप ये कितना भी कहोगे कि हमारा ग्रीन फ्यूल, उसके लिए बहुत कम लोग रिस्पॉन्स देंगे, पर ये करने से पेट्रोल डीजल के रेट में अगर आपको बचत है तो तुरंत लोग उसको लेंगे। इलेक्ट्रिक की पॉपुलरिटी बढ़ने का कारण यही है। तो मुझे लगता है कि आज आप लोग बहुत इसमें अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूँगा कि हमारी सरकार आदरणीय मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में बहुत इन्वेस्टमेंट फ्री है और इकोनॉमी विशेष रूप से ग्रीन फ्यूल को इनकरेज कर रही है। थोड़ी बहुत बातें होती रहती है और वो लॉन्ग टर्म नहीं है। आने वाले समय में पॉलिसी वैसी ही चलेगी, प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ेगी, 20% इथेनॉल और फिर 100% इथेनॉल यूज करने में हमारी क्षमता बहुत बढ़ेगी और हमको देश को प्रदूषण से भी मुक्ति मिलेगी, एक्सपोर्ट भी बढ़ेगा और सबसे बड़ा फायदा है डाइवर्सिफिकेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर टुवर्ड्स एनर्जी एंड पावर सेक्टर। केवल हमारे किसान अन्नदाता नहीं, ऊर्जादाता बने हैं, ऊर्जादाता नहीं बिटुमिन दाता बने हैं। और अब चौधरी साहब और इंडियन ऑयल सबके प्रयासों से अब हमारे किसान हवाई ईंधन दाता बनेंगे और इससे रूरल एग्रीकल्चर ट्राइबल जो इकोनॉमी है, जो जल जमीन जंगल और जानवर पर आधारित है, उसका बहुत बड़ा फायदा होगा। मैं अभी बाम्बू प्लांटेशन के लिए वेस्टलैंड पर बहुत बड़े प्रमाण पर प्रयोग कर रहे हैं और ये जो बाम्बू तैयार हुआ ये बायोफ्यूल के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण होगा। और आसाम और नॉर्थ ईस्ट में तो बाम्बू है ही। अभी तेली जी मुझे बता रहे थे कि आप वहाँ जल्दी आइए। तो नेचुरली बाम्बू में जो कुछ वेराइटीज ऐसी है कि जिनका 1 एकड़ में 2 साल के बाद करीब 150 टन तक प्रोडक्शन मिल रहा है, उसमें भी रिसर्च चालू है। हमारे लिए आवश्यक है कि एक तरफ बायोफ्यूल अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल में काम करने के साथ साथ मशीनरी और इक्विपमेंट में कॉस्ट कम करने के लिए नए रिसर्च के साथ साथ उसका कल्चर, उसकी प्रोसेस, इसमें रिसर्च करने के साथ साथ हमको एग्रीकल्चर क्रॉप्स, एनर्जी क्रॉप्स, उसका प्रोडक्शन और उसमें एनर्जी ज्यादा कैसे मिलेगी, इसके ऊपर बायोटेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग करके, जेनेटिक साइंस का उपयोग करके सबको इंटीग्रेटेड डेवलपमेंट में इसका सबका विचार करना होगा। हम अभी हमारे फेडरेशन ने विशेष रूप से ग्रीन एनर्जी का एक बहुत बड़ा एक्सपो भी, टेक्निकल एक्सपो भी आयोजित किया है। आज उसके लिए भी शुरुआत हुई है। मैं आप सबको अनुरोध करूंगा कि इसमें भी आप शरीक होइए। इसमें इंटरनेशनल लोग भी आने की संभावना ज़्यादा है और इस समय हमारे मैन्युफैक्चरर्स जो है उनको वर्ल्ड मार्केट इस बहाने खुलने वाला है। मुझे श्रीलंका के प्रधानमंत्री मिले थे, वो बोल रहे थे हमें इथेनॉल दो, और राइस है, ब्रोकन राइस है, वो इथेनॉल में जाना चाहते हैं। बांग्लादेश के प्रधानमंत्री से बात हो रही थी, वो मुझे कह रहे थे कि हमारे यहाँ पेट्रोल डीजल इंपोर्ट होता है, इसमें आप हमको इथेनॉल हमारे को दे सकते हैं। तो आने वाले समय में डोमेस्टिक मार्केट और इंटरनेशनल मार्केट, एक्सपोर्ट अपॉर्चुनिटी दोनों जगह, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में ही और फिनिश प्रोडक्ट में भी जो है, उसको देखते हुए ये बहुत बड़ा फ्यूचर है और एक बहुत बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी आप सब लोगों के साथ है। इसका जरूर आप सब लोगों ने एडवांटेज लेना चाहिए, इतना ही आपसे अनुरोध करूंगा। और फिर से एक बार जिन जिन लोगों ने आज अवार्ड लिए उनको हृदय से बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं दूंगा। जिन्होंने इस इंडस्ट्री के इथेनॉल और बायोफ्यूल की शुरुआत में जो अच्छा काम किया है, अन्ना साहब पाटिल मेरे साथ राम नाईक जी हमको ब्राजील लेके गए थे, वो राज्य मंत्री थे पेट्रोलियम के। तो तब हम लोग ब्राजील जाकर देख के आए 2004 में, तब से हम इसके पीछे पड़े। चौधरी साहब ने भी उनके प्राज इंडस्ट्री में इसमें काफी रिसर्च किया। अब उनके साथ अनेक लोग इसमें आए हैं। ये इंडस्ट्री बहुत बड़ी हो रही है और आप सब लोगों का इसमें जो सहयोग मिल रहा है, इससे इसका फ्यूचर बहुत बड़ा होगा। मेरा दृढ़ विश्वास है, जैसे मैं जो बोलता हूँ वो होता ही है। अभी ऐसा नहीं होता कि मैं बोलता हूँ वो होता है। तो मेरा ये विश्वास है कि आप सबके सहयोग से इंडिया एनर्जी को इंपोर्ट करने वाला नहीं, एक्सपोर्ट करने वाला देश बनेगा। इसी विश्वास के साथ आपको बधाई देता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आदरणीय गडकरी जी को कैबिनेट मीटिंग के लिए जाना है। मैं जाने से पहले एक निवेदन करता हूँ कि अपने अतुल खराटे जी हमारे राइव जी के बोर्ड मेंबर हैं, वो चीफ ऑपरेटिंग ऑफिसर है अडानी इंडियन ऑयल टैंकिंग वेंचर्स के, आदरणीय मंत्री जी को हमारी तरफ से सप्रेम टीचर जी, बस ये देखो जी जी जी। अभी तो हमारा सेशन बहुत चलेगा। मैंने रामेश्वर जी से रिक्वेस्ट किया है कि थोड़ी देर हमारे साथ रहें। हम अभी कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं एक जो पैनल डिस्कशन है। मैंने आदरणीय रामेश्वर जी से निवेदन किया है कि आधा घंटा और हमारे साथ रहे। तो जो बाकी पैनलिस्ट हैं मैं उनको रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि वो प्लीज डायस पे आ जाएं। अतुल मूले जी, प्रफुल्ल पाठक जी, रोहित देव, सुबोध कुमार जी और अतुल खराटे जी इस सेशन को मॉडरेट करेंगे। अतुल जी शुरू कर सकते हैं। आदरणीय मंत्री जी को 10 मिनट में जाना है, तो हम उसका ध्यान रखें। ये सेशन का जो टॉपिक है एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन टू मीट नेट जीरो टारगेट्स। I request all guests to please come and take their seats.
Namaskar. Good evening, all of you. So, I think in the midst of the energy transition in the country, and what very recently Honorable Nitanji has explained us in his speech, and earlier to that, Honorable Minister Rameshwar Teliji talked about the importance of our country in the whole scheme of energy transition, as well as the growth story of India. In that context, we are having this today's interaction with the very rich panel here. We have Honorable Minister Rameshwar Teliji sparing his time for this session. We have eminent speaker in terms of the industry experts. We can say the authors. We have industry experts. Those are in this space from long span. We have people from the vast experience of solar, bio, as well as the other new fuels. So in the interest of time, I request everybody to have some patience. We'll be having a very good interaction. We will be finishing it on time. So my request to each one of us to kindly have a seat, and to start with, मैं इस कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित हमारे राज्य मंत्री माननीय रामेश्वर जी से एक सवाल करना चाहता हूँ। सर, पिछले 9-10 साल की जर्नी में एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन के बारे में, नई ऊर्जा के बारे में काफ़ी कुछ चीज़ें देखने को मिली। जो चीज़ें बहुत सालों से हम लोग एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे एज ए इंडस्ट्री, एज ए एक्सपर्ट्स, वो पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क के मामले में काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें सकारात्मक दृष्टि से हम देख रहे हैं। आने वाले दिनों में भारतीय इन्वेस्टर के साथ साथ बहुत से एमएनसी कंपनीज है, विदेशी कंपनीज है जो यहाँ निवेश करना चाहती हैं। आपकी तरफ से इस समय में आप क्या संदेश देना चाहते हैं?
मेरा मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ से कहा गया है कि इस तरह से कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट करना चाहते हैं तो हमारा तरफ से जितना भी हो सके उसको हेल्प करना चाहिए। और मैं विशेषकर व्यक्तिगत बात करना चाहता हूँ। मैं छत्तीसगढ़ में दूसरे सरकार चल रही, दूसरी पार्टी की, और उस समय मैंने देखा कि इथानॉल के ऊपर वहाँ 2-4 लोग प्रोजेक्ट लगाना चाहता था, लेकिन सरकार की तरफ से कोई हेल्प नहीं मिला। और अभी सरकार बनने के बाद मैंने खुद वहाँ के डिप्टी सीएम से मैंने बात किया और मैंने कहा कि कोई भी अगर वहाँ इथानॉल का प्रोजेक्ट लगाते हैं तो अपनी सरकार की तरफ से जितना हो सके हेल्प किया जाए। और मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मैं भी कहना चाहता हूँ कि मैं पूरा भारत में कोई भी इन्वेस्टमेंट अगर आते हैं इस तरह से काम करने के लिए, तो मैं मंत्रालय की तरफ से, मैं एक राज्य मंत्री के रूप से मैं जितना हो सके मैं हेल्प करूँगा।
धन्यवाद सर। हमने देखा है आदरणीय मंत्री हरदीप सिंह जी पुरी जी को भी और रामेश्वर जी को भी। अभी रिसेंटली मुझे याद है जब गोवा में हम लोग इंडिया एनर्जी वीक के लिए वहाँ पे 4 दिन थे, तो मैंने देखा कि 17 से 18 घंटे उसी पैवेलियन में रह के, इंडस्ट्री के साथ रह के, लोगों से बात करके, वहाँ पे जितने लोग आए हुए हैं उनको सबसे व्यक्तिगत मिलने में, डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिसर लोगों को साथ में लेके मिलने में रामेश्वर जी ने और आदरणीय पुरी जी ने बहुत समय दिया है। यही मेरे हिसाब से एक बहुत अच्छी बात इस समय में हम देख रहे हैं कि देयर इज एन इनेबलिंग रोल इन द कमिंग डेज, और देयर इज एन ट्रांजिशन, and that transition is happening with the involvement of government with whole heart and their soul. सर, इंडस्ट्री की तरफ से हम यहाँ आपको धन्यवाद भी करते हैं, और आने वाले दिनों में यही सहयोग इंडस्ट्री के इन्वॉल्वमेंट से आगे बढ़ेगा। तो मेरे हिसाब से जो अभी नितिन जी ने थोड़े टाइम पहले हमें संदेश दिया है कि हमें सिर्फ सेल्फ रिलायंस ही नहीं रहना है, इंडिया को आने वाले दिनों में यह एनर्जी का एक्सपोर्ट कंट्री बनेगा, ये मेरे हिसाब से ये सच्चाई बहुत दूर नहीं रहेगी। यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा विराम लेते हुए हम एक्सपर्ट की तरफ बढ़ते हैं। हमारे साथ में आदरणीय YB रामकृष्ण जी हैं। रामकृष्ण जी का अलग से परिचय देने की जरूरत नहीं है। He itself is a author and authority in this energy transition. In the interest of time, my question to you, sir, how do you see this energy transition and how can you correlate with the current Indian scenario?
Thank you for that question. When we talk about the energy transition, we have to realize that we have started talking about this language only now. But energy transition is something that has been happening, over a long time. There was a time when we were using only fuel wood as our source of energy. Then we switched over to coal, and then to crude oil and all its derivatives. During this transition, one of the things that we have observed is that, the conversion technologies, by and large, they are quite inefficient. That's what we have realized today. When, we burn any of these fossil fuels, the actual energy that you get back is probably 30%, 35%, almost 65% of the energy gets wasted. And in the process of burning this various types of fuels, we also release so much of pollution into the atmosphere, which has created some amount of different types of problems, including the health problem. So when we talk about the energy transition in today's context, it is very important to realize that we are not talking about just switching over from one form of energy into another form of energy. What is very important here is that when we talk about energy transition, we are talking about renewable energy, we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about circularity. There are various aspects to it. Ultimately we have to really look at, developing those kind of systems where energy generation and consumption is done at highest possible efficiency and the pollutions are minimized. This is something that we have to keep in mind. It is not just the switching over from one energy to another energy, but all these aspects plays a very important role. And when we talk about energy transition, it is also very important that we have developed so much of our energy delivery mechanisms in the country. We cannot make them redundant and think in terms of putting up new delivery mechanisms. When we talk about new forms of energy, we have to really see how efficiently we will continue to use the existing infrastructure that we have, and also for the new forms of energy, some new infrastructure needs to be created. So it is essentially looking at kind of end-to-end approach to meeting our energy needs. We have to really look at our resources. Like currently we are looking at wasted resources to be converted into different forms of energy through different conversion pathways. But as Gadkari was talking about, generating new feedstock that is really required. One of the most wasted resources in this country is the land. How do we engage the farming community to make use of the wasted resource, which is land, to generate more resources that is really required for this, for this energy transition that we are talking about, and also working towards the most efficient forms of technology. And as rightly pointed out by Gadkari ji, is that the commercial viability of the technology. If you are not able to, make the technology viable, and these products are not going to be replacing the fossil fuels that we have been consuming at this point of time. So it's not just switching over from one form of energy to another form. We have to take a very holistic approach to the whole thing. As rightly pointed out by him, we are not just talking about energy, but we are talking about a new economy that is needs to be created, which is sustainable, circular, environmental friendly, etc. Thank you.
Thank you for detailed elaboration, sir. So when we talked about net zero, our journey towards the transition, solar is playing a very vital role, and this we have been experiencing very closely in India. So in that connection, we have Dr. Ashwini Kumarji. He was head of the Solar Corporation. and he is a person involved in various these initiatives taken by government about 2 decades back. And actually, we have been experiencing fruits of those initiatives today. So, my question to you, sir, how do you see this transition in terms of solar mainly and some portion of wind as well? Ashwini Kumarji. And one supplementary point, very recently Honorable Prime Minister talked about 1 crore of household solar installation. How do you see that in terms of feasibility, in terms of response, what's an opportunity for the market?
Thank you for the question. When you talk about solar, wind, the biggest advantage what we have seen is that their cost has driven what Honorable Minister said, commercial viability is the key point. Initially when we started solar mission, it was not commercially viable, it was very, very expensive. But India has excelled in the policy. Through policy instruments, we are able to see what we are seeing today. The tariff structure in solar and wind has really come down, and the tariff is less than the tariff of energy from new coal thermal power plants, whatever you get. Saying that, I would say, as far as concerned to the overall picture, there are few pointers as Government of India has put in. One, that we want to do 500 gigawatt of solar and wind or clean energy or RE, non-fossil fuel energy by 2030. Second, that we want to be net zero by 2070. Third is that by 2047, we want to be energy independent, in which we are talking about lot about bioenergy, 20% ethanol mix and all PNG and CBG and all. In that perspective, if you just see the reports of CEA, they have worked out, by 2030, our total installed capacity is expected to be around 780 gigawatt. Out of that, 500 non-fossil fuel. In this 500, I think around 280 or something like that is for the solar, 100 gigawatt for the wind. But fortunately, what has happened that now we started putting what we call pure vanilla solar and wind projects. But now I think that's little problematic, because when this energy is generated, demand may not be at that time. It means you need to have a robust grid system, robust storage system or something. So for that, the India through again policy started few experiments, what we call RTC power, round the clock power. SECI brought out some tenders. We had some learnings in that, and even in that, when we were talking about 80% PLF on annual basis, the tariffs were around 3 rupees. But power engineer said, no, this is not real round the clock power. It should be in 15 block period. The power, the profile should be matched. Now we are getting into another, I would say, evolution of tenders, what we call it fixed and dispatchable RE, FDRE, tenders by SECI. So I think that's happening, and it means you are, putting focus on the solutions, on the what you want. And solutions, I think, I am very proud of the industry. They are able to put up the solution. They are able to give you how that mix is going to happen, solar plus wind plus battery storage or pumped hydro storage or something. So that's happening. I think that's a very positive aspect. And I think so battery is the key. Pumped storage is going to happen, but storage is going to play through batteries a key role in achieving our goals. I think that is all.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ashwini ji. So we will now move towards the industry perspective. So we have Atul Muleji from Praj. Now we can say very proudly Praj is an Indian multinational company. They have, I think, very determined way, dedicated time for R&D, and now the time has came really. We see the difference in the market in not only India but abroad, and their technologies and other solutions for the biofuels. So my question to you, sir, how do you see the role of industry like Praj and others in the coming days, and how can you see this transition from your point of view?
Yes, thank you, Atulji. Good evening, everybody. It's a very important question, and we have been only talking about the technology, commercialization of technology, cost of technology, effectiveness of technology during the whole of this session. Technology is going to be really a buzzword from this energy transition perspective, and as said by Ramakrishna ji, from the fire to coal and onwards the energy. That time probably energy, value to the energy was not to the extent, or value to the technology was not extent, and now what is there today. What we need is that technological development should happen, and technological development along with commercialization should also happen parallelly. That's very important, because we have no time between the technology development and commercialization, because probably 5 years back the scenario was different, and today practically you expect the technology development and commercialization go hand in hand. And that situation, we from the industry perspective, not only Praj Industries but the people sitting here from various technology, everyone is getting ready. And today, probably because of the global scenario, India is not only the market, and the global market is anyway open for all the technology providers here. From the perspective of Praj, as been seen in the talk about Dr. Chaudhary and Honorable Gadkari Saab, that we are already in the first generation ethanol plant, and first generation ethanol plant. Probably 10 years back, the energy required then and energy required today. So we have dropped the energy requirement from 10 years back today almost to the 20-25% energy, because that's what the technological development happened. And today, whatever the energy requirement, steam consumption, which was about 5 kg, it has come to as 2.5 kg per liter of ethanol. So that's happening from the energy side. At the same time, the productivity, which is a part of technological development, various using of the multi raw material, like for instance today sugar streams, grain, damaged grain, surplus grain, we have been using this technological development for making more profitable way of working on that. Apart from that, you have second generation, which whether we talked about the IOCL plant of a second generation, or compressed biogas plant coming in, sustainable aviation fuel, biomethanol. These are all the technological developments happening, but as I said, today the speed to market and commercialization is going to be the buzzword and the keyword. And there probably we need good partnership between our customers, their preparedness, their acceptance. It can go hand in hand, and for which probably we have very encouraging policy framework which is in place in India. Over and above that, the Global Biofuel Alliance is also giving a lot of opportunity to have a partnership India as well as the international and offering, accepting and offering the technology. So I feel that technological development is the key, and then we as an Indian technology provider for multinational, we are offering it, we are ready for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So moving ahead in terms of industry, we'll go to CBG now. So we have Ashish Kumar, our industry friend. So Ashish is instrumental in terms of taking up this issue on behalf of IFG and as an industry as well. And a lot of things has happened in last year or so. So my direct question to you, Ashish, lot of framework is already in place, I can say, and certain things are under discussion. So how do you see this as a change when at your end, and what are the immediate key expectations on behalf of the CBG industry?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Atul. We met here, if I'm not mistaken, about 14 months back. That's when the CBG Producer Forum was launched at the same place. In the last 14 months, significant development has happened as far as the policy framework goes in the CBG space, and I can very, I think, comfortably state that IFG has played quite a prominent role in introducing all these policies for the CBG. Now, coming to the question, which are the, let's say, my wish list, which I would like to see from a CBG Producer Forum perspective as well. Um, there is a lot which has been said about securing the feedstock. That remains, but I guess there has been significant development which has happened on that side. So I'm not going to talk much about that. I'm going to shift the focus on the end product side. And I'm going to just reiterate what Gadkari ji just mentioned. It's all about the economic viability. And offtake remains a concern, especially when it comes to medium to large scale production units and all aspects of offtake. It's not just the volume offtake we are talking about. So the infrastructure which is required to make that offtake happen, that is something which is still a missing block in the puzzle. There is work happening, but I think we just need more speed on the ground for that. Very, very crucial. And by that I mean the grid connectivity. So that's really something which is really much needed. Then we also talk about, I mean, this, even if the policies come in, by the time the policies get realized on the ground, it's going to take a while. So during these interim phase, which will be anything from a few months to maybe a few years, we need interim solutions. Whether, I mean, I'll not get into the details, but I would say we, till the time the grid connectivity happens, we need interim solutions for that. The other thing is, also related to offtake, is how we can improve or improvise on the pricing of the end product. And this is where I would disagree with the Honorable Minister, because he did mention that the marketability of the end product is not a problem in India, whereas in the CBG space it is still in a very nascent stage, and this needs a lot of push. So the marketability is currently a concern, and this needs to improve. The pricing conditions need to improve. What I would like to see here is that a feedstock based concept also needs to be brought in the CBG space, because the capex, opex, which is associated with the different feedstock types, is very, very different, whereas the end product pricing remains the same. So this is something which really needs to be worked on. Very important to understand how the announced blending mandate for CBG will actually be fleshed out. What are the detailed guidelines, how the penalties will be laid out. So these are some very details what are still required to be worked on. The list is pretty long. I would probably conclude with two more points. One would be the marketability and the offtake of the FOM is a kind of a lifeline for this CBG producers. So how can we have a sustainable model for that with secure offtake guarantees, offtake prices? This would be very critical. And when it comes to feedstock, to conclude with, the only solution is to really bombard it with a lot of mechanization at a war footing pace, and that is what I see already happening, and this is what is going to improve or strengthen the economic viability of the CBG business case.
Thank you, Ashish, for your candid feedback and your thoughts. Again, we'll move towards Satat. We talked about Satat a lot, more specifically the CBG industry people. And we have Subodhji with us, and he was instrumental, had played a very vital role in terms of framing this policy for the country. So, sir, what's your thoughts in terms of, we as an industry expect that there is a need to have Satat 2.0, and if it's so, what's your thought in terms of what type of specific characters it has to have, which will really help the industry in the coming days?
Thank you, Atulji. See, Satat 2.0, yeah, that's a good thought. And when we came out with the Satat 1 or Satat original, 1st October 2018, the time frame was 5 years. So 5 years period is almost over now. So we are 5.5 years since then. A lot of mileage has been covered, and things have changed a lot. The feedstock those days was not a challenge. It's but we are facing the problem of aggregation of the feedstock, the pricing of the feedstock. Those days it was thought that the FOM marketing will not be a challenge. It will be going like sold like hotcake and all those things. But that market is yet to be matured and developed. FOM, the liquid FOM also. So all these challenges which Ashish ji has pointed out, through the IFG we are taking up with the government and trying to find out some solutions, some concessions, something is there. Two of the revenue streams are yet to be tapped, which is the carbon dioxide and carbon credit, what is the green gas credit and all. We are working on those areas also. So with the 4 revenue streams coming in properly, with the support of the government, with the support of the market, with the support of the conscious people, probably Satat 2, if you may mention that it is not needed, but yes, time it will take.
Thank you, sir. So from CBG and Satat, let's move again to solar. We have Prafulji with us, and Dr. Ashwini Kumarji expressed his thoughts in terms of how do you see in the coming days as an industry, as a forecast from his own perspective. So my question to you, Prafulji, if you can elaborate from the point of view of industry, when you have been traveling across the country, you are president of the forum, you have been part of this journey from more than 15-20 years now. So what can you see for solar industry for say next 5 years or 10 years of span?
Thank you very much. As you have mentioned about my travel, I would like to mention about the travel of Solar Energy Society of India too. Solar Energy Society of India was formed in 1978, something 55 years plus back. Situations were same. Whatever the situation at that time was, they say, my predecessor says, at that time, again, we had an oil crisis and the alternate energy sources, what could be the alternative energy sources that needs to be found out. That was the aim about those who started this Solar Energy Society of India. Why I am mentioning 1978, I will explain in the latter part of my views. In fact, even Mr. Ramakrishnan has very rightly said that we are talking or we are using the word energy transition now. But if I look back at my career or whatever the experience I have, the things have started quite early. Now we are talking. I am a person who has joined 30 years back in a fossil fuel industry, and now I am advocating solar energy. That is another change, or that is the change we are saying. If we are looking at solar energy, I will define it from 1978 to 2010, 2014 is one phase where solar means solar thermal or something like that was the concept. Another thing is we were very much relying on fossil fuel because we haven't found the options. There were crises of energy during 1995 to 2005, somewhere there, where we have a short of energy, and again these things comes into picture. What alternate sources we can do, and there solar got one more jerk or one more trigger, you can say. Government comes up with viability gap funding. Then 1 megawatt solar plant was a dream. Then there comes a mission where we had a target of 20 gigawatt. When that type of target was set, everybody, including us, we were laughing because 20 gigawatt was a huge figure at that time. And whatever the past we had, it was something amazing figure. But I would definitely give all credit to the government which comes into from 2014. Our Honorable Prime Minister, who was there in Gujarat, he had some innovative ideas and thoughts about solar. He had the solar installations at Kannauр and all that. But he had something special in his heart, like Mr. Gadkari, our Honorable Minister, has solar as well as the biofuel. And I feel that from 2014, again, there was a figure which was announced was 100 gigawatt. Our target, which was 20 gigawatt, was set to 100 gigawatt, again everybody was in a shock that we have, do we have all these things? But thanks to the leadership and the team under him, the policies have made, the reviews have taken, the industry comes in, and when we had a target of 100 gigawatt and we are very near to that, that is one phase, and that gives us another confidence that if we can move from a target of 20 gigawatt, reschedule to 100 gigawatt, and we are near to that, so definitely we have something in us, and then now we have rescheduled or retargeted our future goals in 2030, 47 and 2070. So the major change which I have seen in last 30 years or last 5-10 years is now, earlier days there was not much momentum, but now there is a huge momentum. Whenever you talk, whenever you think about solar, there is a huge momentum that is there. And when you have momentum, as we say in Newton's law, when you are at standstill, the energy required is more. But if you are moving, definitely at a lesser energy, you can achieve more. So we are at that stage. Whenever we move in the country or everywhere, we found that yes, there is a momentum for solar sector, and definitely as policymakers, government has a role, but industry has played a vital role in all these things. Because the earlier days, the unit cost per unit cost was somewhere 15 plus, and when somebody was saying we will have a parity with conventional electricity, when we were talking in 2014 or somewhere, it was again a dream for us. But now people are fighting that if you are ready to say, give solar power at 2 rupees 90 paisa, then we will take. If you are saying we will give it at 2 rupees 93 paisa, then we cannot give you the solar power. So that situation is there, and I am very, very happy for all these things, because as I said, there is a momentum, and when you have momentum, the goals which otherwise we feel that they are not reachable or something like that, they can be achieved. And in the 100 gigawatt target, we have shown that we are near to that, or we have crossed. So in that context, I am very much sure that whatever the industry is delivering, we will definitely go in a faster way, and will be near to or will achieve the targets. But one more thing which I would like to mention, which is pertinent here, that when I see biofuel, when I see CBG and all that, I remember the days before 2010 of solar energy sector. Like other, we were also in that same situation, but in last 14 years, the things have moved like anything, and if such type of gathering comes together and under the banner of IFG or SECI or the people in the Lutyens area, then we, after some 10 years, if we come together in the same premises, and if we talk about CBG or biofuel, the situation which I am explaining about solar energy will definitely be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Prafulji, for a detailed elaboration. So now we have two senior members of the panel, Colonel Rohit Dev and Mr. Sabyasachi. So you both are subject matter expert, part of lot of industry interaction. Many of us have had both of them. So my very common question to both of you. See, we are talking about policies and framework in place, certain things are in progress, government is supportive, etc., etc. However, you being a part of the journey of both the sides, we also wanted to know what are the challenges you see in terms of the journey of net zero. Maybe we can start with Sabyasachi and then we'll go to Colonel Rohit.
Thanks. Thanks for this opportunity. So I'll just divide this whole, into two parts. One is the renewable, conventional renewable energy towards power, and the other side is the green fuel. So let's look first at the renewable energy piece. So when we started in, let's say, late 2008, 2009, at that point of time, solar power was going at more than 17 rupees. Wind energy, of course, was there, but wind energy was seen as something, which was meant for tax shield and things like that. No one thought about it as a serious energy source. And when solar first came, it was seen, something as a sort of a curiosity and social obligation and things like that. No one expected at that point of time that solar or wind will be a very large part of the total energy mix. But by 2014-15, the tariffs had fallen to such a level that with a small amount of GBI or small amount of viability gap funding, it was becoming competitive with the thermal. But people still thought that okay, fine, it's a competitive and a growing source, but it will still remain maybe 10% or thereabout source of the total energy mix. And frankly speaking, it's never going to be a serious substitute for conventional power. By 2020, we saw that once competitive bidding came in wind, wind tariffs fell to low 3 rupees. Solar came down to 2 rupees, to just about 2 rupees. So at this point of time, it was very clear that renewable energies would be a very serious part of the mix. But at the same time, there were a lot of doubts that well, fine, it's very cheap, but it's only available at certain months of the year and certain times of the day. It will not be available. So still, there were doubts. But now, increasingly, we are seeing that we might be in a position, the bids are revealing that we might be in a position to deliver fairly large amounts of round-the-clock and dispatchable power at anywhere between 450 to 5 rupees, as per our calculation. Which means that more or less we are done with. We are competitive with thermal in the renewable energy sector. Now, our own presentation, I think we have shared our presentation with you. What we are seeing is that by 2027-28 or thereabouts, our total installed capacity of wind plus, hydro plus renewable energy would exceed the total thermal capacity. And by 2030, we are actually looking at 40% plus energy coming from renewable energy and hydro, and 50% from thermal. So, as we are saying, and we are only in 2030, we are not in 2070. So, that net zero from the power side is definitely, it's not something which is a theoretical concept. It is something which is a doable thing. Of course, there are a lot of things. We have, the biggest cost here is cost of capital, and we have to keep the cost of capital low. And to keep the cost of capital low, we must de-risk the business. The DISCOMs must pay on time, that's the biggest thing. And we must be able to make land and connectivity and those things available on time. So on the renewable energy piece, we are fairly there. Now let's look at the green fuel. Green fuel, yes, still, we started in a very big way, much later than renewable energy. Now there are various sources. We have ethanol, which is already a fairly tested. Already we are about 12% of the total blending we have reached, and we should be able to reach 20% without really breaking into a sweat over the next 3 to 4 years. There are of course other areas where we still need to work. For instance, biopellets for substituting coal in thermal power plants. In fact, I understand that in Vindhyachal, NTPC have already started using MSW briquettes. And variable cost of generation is not much higher than that of coal. So, of course, a lot of research has to, I think Mr. Gadkari also, Mr. Gadkari also hinted that obviously all these green fuels are more expensive compared to the conventional fossil fuels. But then the research has really started, and there is no reason why we should not be able to achieve similar economies of scale. But again, the challenges have already been identified by the very knowledgeable members who are there. Things like disposal of waste, FOM, having a proper machinery, equipment, the transportation infrastructure, the logistics value chain for bringing in the biomass and disposing of the waste, whether it's FOM or something else. Naturally, those are the things that we have to work on. But having said that, I must also point out that the way things are happening in the international market, for instance, Europe is talking about carbon tax on imports of various metals and other commodities. Similarly, there are many multinationals who want to be RE50 or RE100. So it's very much possible that even at a premium, we might be able to sell large amounts of green fuel to the interested end users. So definitely we must keep making attempts towards that.
Thank you so much for a comprehensive view, Mr. Sabyasachi. The same question to Colonel Rohit Dev, and if you can specifically talk about two challenges and two mitigation plan.
Right. So, firstly, while we are talking about renewable energy, I am quite convinced in my mind that for the next about decade and a half, the conventional energy will also grow. And it is very much, apparent from today's proceedings and this evening that while 8 of us are trying to hold on to renewable energy, the others have gone to conventional energy towards the soup counter already. So that is the way, it's going to flow in the energy sector as well. Coming to the brass tacks, I will not comment more because of paucity of time, but let me start with a couple of ideations. The first ideation is that we have a roadmap of net zero 2070. And traditionally around 2055 is the time India is going to kick in the 1.6 or 1.5 or 2 degree kind of norm, and more scope 3 and scope 2 will come around the retail sector. But till about 2045, there is a huge growth of conventional. There is also a rapidization of the renewable energy sector as well. But the question which begets an answer is that keeping the population and the energy needs of the country of 2070, both domestic and industrial, how are we mapping this energy transition? So like Professor YB also said, that you cannot stop a particular technology today just at a press of button tomorrow. It has to have some sustainable life itself. So when we see, say, the automotive sector, now there is infusion of a whole gamut of technology going around the gas route, going around the route of E2G. We're talking about flex engines technology. We're talking about many more things to come. And suddenly you will find that the package also includes some kind of an hydrogen, some kind of a storage, which is born from some other electric vehicle mobility. So there is an evolution in terms of energy, in terms of technology adaptation, and also the acceptability in terms of the financial viability. So while these two things are made, the research and development, the gestation period also takes time. India has actually not marked, and no country has marked actually, what is your roadmap in each segment of requirement of energy going ahead. The second part is, and that's I'm afraid a bigger challenge in India, since the energy sector is much more diverse, federal in nature, like many other sectors, not like defense. Defense is in the union list, and whatever the government of India makes in long term stays for long term. I think now time has come that forums like ourselves and others should push the government to holistically think about putting energy needs of this country under the ambit of energy security as a part of an instrument of national power, national security, and keep it under the union list so that the formulations are such that the foreign investors, technology developers, R&D institutes, whether you're trying to do co-development, co-designing with niche, kind of institutions and segments abroad, also find some confidence in what India is doing. Otherwise, bear me out, but CBG, where we stand. We also know where we stand in E2G. So it could have gone through a different route had the states also come up with the skin in the game. And the problem is nobody gets the skin in the game. We saw how wind energy sector, especially when I had to travel in areas of far west, Jaisalmer and beyond, how bigger companies went under a drought period for 3-4 years, about 2 years back, and how they had to overcome those challenges with support of the state and the central government both. The next thing about bioenergy is that whatever we have spoken about, except the solar part probably, the bioenergy sector today, and as we dwell upon, is contingent on feedstock, and where the farmer is the key stakeholder. And in all the proposals which have gone through till date, and DPRs one has seen even lying with the ministries, it's more of a commodity procurement kind of a plan that you are shopping for biomass. And that has to change as a mindset. The project developer, the financer, whosoever does it, has to get skin in the game to own that component of upstream. And I'm quite sure I'm sharing a dice with a person, Ashish here, who has done it himself for nearly 3.5-4 years now and struggled and come up with solutions. So I think this aspect of the farmer being the stakeholder, let me give you a very random thought. You take from the farmer the prali at say hypothetically 2 rupees. You make E2G. You have intermediaries. You have final product. You have a lot of profitability coming at the end of the tunnel. Plow back that profit for profit. So maybe in the CBE sector you give him back 1.5, 2 rupees more. Maybe in E2G you give him 6 rupees more, which is much more than what the feedstock was. So I think such kind of cooperative models where the farmer forms a consortium to run a company himself, you can enable them and make away or make do with the traditional supply chain, value chain of the food cycle of the country, because we know how the middlemen are controlling the food cycle. We don't want that to happen with the energy cycle of this country in the future. The next point is about the standardization. And standardization comes for process, for quality, you name anything, emissions, carbon credits. Why should we as a country, which is going to be the biggest market and producer both of energy, look at the standardization of the Europeans or the West and try to imbibe that? We can obviously be the front runner in creating those standards. Yes, they will go under adaptation globally, but we should be able to do that and not wait. For example, today you see what's happening in the carbon credit market. We have, foreign kind of an infusion in the country. We have 6.2 of the UN Charter to be abided by, but we still do not have something of our own to guide us ahead. So I think there are many more things, including skill development. We need to focus, huge industry growth. Where is the instrument to have the skill development upstream, midstream, particularly, and how are we going to face that challenge also remains the challenge. So there are many more to discuss, but I think in the interest of the soup and the dinner serve, I have to do that much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for very professional views from Rohit ji. So just to summarize, when we talked about India as a country, we have a lot of demographic advantages in terms of our population, the middle class and lower middle class population, the aspiring class of our country is going to drive this demand in terms of retail, in terms of oil and gas, in terms of industry, in terms of infrastructure, etc., etc. So when we talked about oil and gas industry, in the way of talking about new energy, solar, bio, other medias, etc., etc. So we have to also realistic to the fact that liquid fuel in the countries are also growing at the rate of 2 to 3%. The automobile sector is growing in the country in double digit. We are one of the youngest country with a median age of 28 years of age. So what does it mean? It means basically a more number of opportunities, a larger infrastructure, a high number of investment coming in the next decades or so, and we will be crossing China by 2040. We will be growing at the same space. In terms of economy, I think it's just a matter of next couple of years that we will be moving ahead as the largest economy in the globe, and we are already a most stable, most better performing economy in the world today. So we all have a role to play as an industry. We have a role to play as a policymaker, as a part of this IFG's today's event. I take this opportunity on behalf of industry, as well as on behalf of IFG. I thanks each one of you. And as a part of this final discussion, just to conclude, I request Vaibhu Ramkrishna ji to express his views in a couple of minutes, and then we'll conclude this session.
Well, as already articulated by many speakers, we do have quite a few challenges, and unless we overcome these kind of challenges, the energy transition has been facing at this point of time, it will be very difficult to reach the kind of goals and also the net zero goal that we have by 2070. I will just repeat, it could be some of the things may be repetition, but 5 or 6 things that we had to really look at. One is, when we talk about bioenergy, specifically, we have to really look at the feedstock supply chain and more feedstock production. A lot needs to be done in creating a robust, sustainable feedstock supply chains. And the second thing is, on the technology front, which Atul Mulay did mention about it. We have no issues when it comes to developing a lot of new technologies, but scaling this technology to a certain commercial level and making it commercially and technologically viable has been one of the big challenges. And this is where I think a lot of support is required from the government to make sure that kind of transition from lab to certain scale demonstration is there from the government. And the third, the most important aspect is that, when we especially talk about the bioenergy part of it, it is not just the fuel that is going to come out. There are a lot of other byproducts. We have to really, for the entire sustainability of the whole thing, all the byproduct valorization and creating the market for the fuel as well as the byproduct becomes very important. The offtake issues, which she did talk about, and this is very important also. Fourth important aspect is the low cost impact financing that is really required for this for this kind of project. When you are talking about energy transition, the biofuel sector itself needs an investment of something like 7 to 8 lakh crores in the coming few years. I'm not even talking about the other sectors like solar, wind, and things like that. If that is the kind of investment that needs to come, we need to have the right kind of financing mechanisms in the country, and that is something that we really need to put it in place. And the other important aspect is all this energy transition that we are talking about, new forms of energy that we are talking about. Ultimately, if it is going to help us bring down the carbon footprint, then these sectors needs to be rewarded. There's a lot said about already the carbon accounting and carbon credit kind of mechanism. This is something that we need not have to aid the West. We need to create our own systems to make sure that we put in place kind of carbon reduction targets for each of the sector, every sector in this country, and then whoever is meeting those kind of the kind of carbon reduction targets, it must be rewarded, and who's not doing it has to be punished. We have to make them buy those kind of credits that are going to be sold in the market. So I would believe that if we can put that kind of enabling mechanism, the policy enabling mechanism, the right kind of financing mechanism, the technology and the industry will take it forward. And rightly pointed out by Gadkari, the target that we have to become energy self-reliant by 2047 and an exporting country beyond that, this rate can become a reality. And I think we all have to work towards achieving those kind of visionary targets that we have. And I believe that this is going to be a reality very soon. Thank you.
Thank you all panel members, and thank you each one of you. Thank you IFG. Thank you so much.
Excellent.